Hey everyone. In October 2024, Western Michigan University physics professor Paul Pancella gave a symposium on his human electric hybrid Velomobile project. After a year of upgrades and data collection experimentation, Dr. Pancella recently gave a follow-up presentation at the Western Physics Department. The hour-long video which follows is the complete recording, including a question and answer session. Due to camera limitations, the projected slides did not show up well, but he did provide a PDF version of the slides, and those are linked in the video description, so grab those if you want to follow along the slides. At the end of the video, there's also a short vehicle walk around and some looks inside and some additional questions and answers that were done in the lobby. So if you want to skip ahead to that, just use the slider or the chapter markers to go ahead and see that. Please do the YouTube thing, like, subscribe, and so forth if you want to see additional videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
All right, thanks everybody for coming out to our first colloquium of the semester. And today we're going to kick it off with our own Dr. Pancella, who will give us an update. About a year and a half ago, he gave a talk introducing his project and the preliminary data he had there. Now in the last year and a half, he's collected a lot more. That'll give some physical insight to how it works and his experiences with how it works. So.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you all for coming. I enjoyed talking about this. I will apologize in case anybody, I see mostly familiar faces, so you probably know what to expect. But if anybody is expecting a typical physics colloquium, this won't be one of those. Okay, I won't be talking about new discoveries on the frontier of knowledge or anything like that, but a project to apply physics principles to a practical situation in transportation. And a lot of engineering involved as well. As Andy said, I did talk about this previously. That talk was in October of 2024 when this device, this vehicle was newer. So I will recap that for those who don't remember that, if you were here, and those who weren't here. I'll recap briefly. I'll try to be brief and concise about that because I do want to save enough time to get to the meat of this presentation, which will be actual data based on my experience operating this vehicle in the time since it became operational. So this term here, human electric hybrid, is a technically accurate term, but it's a little more fancy than it needs to be probably. It's basically an e-bike. Conceptually, it's an e-bike, a human-powered vehicle with an electric assist motor. So I'll talk about the goals of the project so that we can see by the end how well they've been achieved. Okay, so where were we when previously I spoke with you? I've been a cyclist for a long time. A very long time. I commuted to high school and college on my bicycle. I've come in that same long career as a physicist, as a scientist. I've come to a deep appreciation of energy, how important energy is for everything we do, how difficult or easy it is to get energy to supplement our own muscles. But I also appreciate energy when I'm riding my bike in a very visceral way because my own energy is being used to move me around, and I want to be able to do that in a sustainable way. So I have a multi-dimensional appreciation for energy and its use in the modern world. And now we know that the energy that we use to extend our capabilities beyond our own bodies often also is harming our environment. So I'm interested in, there's another third dimension for being interested in efficiency and conserving energy and doing as much as possible with the energy that we have. And when you look at the automobile, which is the main way that we get around, people get around even if they're just trying to go down to the store, it's not efficient, especially in an urban environment, when reasonably short distances, when you're not in a hurry. Of course, the car is considered essential to most people in our country especially. It has capabilities beyond just urban transportation, okay? It can go 70, 80 miles an hour between cities and stuff. But within the city, within most day-to-day transportation, it's really a horribly inefficient way to get around. So on a parallel track, being now 2/3 of a century old or something like that, I'm well aware that my own physical capability, the peak of my physical ability to move myself around, happened in the past. I'm on the long downhill slide now in my ability to use my muscles to move myself around. So fortunately for me, the age of the lithium-ion battery, the lithium batteries got invented before I got too decrepit, and the energy density, the energy that can be stored per mass improved greatly, and made things like e-bikes and electric vehicles possible. And it makes it possible to do a reasonable e-bike and keep the great efficiency that's innate to a bicycle. Keep that and just add a little bit of extra help for getting up the hills and things like that. And I realized that was in my future. Several years ago, I realized that was in my future. But being who I am, I didn't want to just do an ordinary, especially not an upright e-bike. I had already graduated to the recumbent bicycle position, which is already more efficient because it reduces aerodynamic drag, reduces your cross-section to the wind. But that means I would have to do a project. I'd have to do a kit. I'd have to add that to a bicycle. There still aren't too many recumbent bikes sold as e-bikes commercially, electric bikes commercially. So then I thought, well, what the heck? Might as well go for it, right? If I'm going to put a motor on my beautiful, simple bicycle, put it on an even more efficient vehicle, something called a Velomobile, a fully fared vehicle that's heavier than a bike. So it could really use the extra help from an electric motor. So that's what I set out to do before my previous talk, and I had that more or less ready to talk about in October of 2024. Because fortunately, even where my own skills are lacking, I know people. All right, so for those of you unfamiliar with this term, Velomobile, let me take a little sidetrack. This picture's so beautiful, I think I'll turn off half the lights here. Here's a small collection of Velomobiles to show you that they are a real thing. What a Velomobile is a human-powered vehicle, okay, operated by pedals, but with a full fairing, a full aerodynamic fairing, so that you get the maximum efficiency out of the vehicle, at least if you're going on level ground, okay? Typically 3 wheels. These are all tricycles. Thin tires, again, high-pressure tires for efficiency, so best suited for smooth paved surfaces. And there are areas of the world where these aren't a rare sight, a particularly rare sight, but not in this hemisphere. It's pretty rare to see one of these in this hemisphere or in this country. This is in this country. This is sunny California, Southern California. In the year 2014, I came across this photo when I was trying to get some information about the previous owners of my vehicle. And sure enough, there's the one that I now own, almost 12 years ago, when the first owner was operating it in California. Looked nice then, and Went through one other owner before I was able to get it at a good price. Okay, so here's some cool. Some more evidence that they're real. This is a nice flat area in the Netherlands where they're, like I said, somewhat popular on a race course for a demonstration. The maker of this video is very talented and has provided a readout of the speed in kilometers per hour as he makes his way around this course. Other unfared recumbents getting left in the dust, of course. Also important, the power output that he's doing, putting in. But it's human powered, no electric assist on any of these. He's pretty athletic. You can see him shifting gears and having a good time. I wish I could have been there. Okay, here we go. So here's some schematics of the actual model that I obtained that shows some interesting optimization. Shows the general layout of the cyclist who's in the recumbent position, very comfortable position, legs forward, safer in that sense. You're not leading with your head if you go into a crash. But very optimized, very smooth fairing. But the fairing is not just the fairing. The shell is constructed of carbon fiber, and it is the structure. It is the structure for this vehicle. So we call that monocoque. The wheels are bolted to that shell. The seat is bolted to the shell. The cranks are bolted to the shell. So there's no extra weight for an internal frame. You're not adding a shell to an internal frame. It's optimized to try to get the least weight and the best aerodynamics. Mainly for the aerodynamics, you want to reduce your frontal area. So there's not a lot of extra room. There's not a lot of extra room above your knees, not a lot of extra room here where your feet have to go around, especially if you have big feet like me. It's pretty close to the edge. Not a lot of extra space for cargo. Nice shrouds to keep the dirt off of you, that all the wheels are completely isolated from the inside. It's low. It's as low as it can be. Yes, Kirk.
Could you create a fairing that had some extra room for?
Oh, yeah. I'll get to that. Yep. No, this, like I said, I didn't say it, but I was on the search for a Velomobile that I could buy and get my hands on for many years. And they're hard to get in the United States. So this is one I ended up with. But it has a lot of advantages. It's an older model that was invented prior to about 2012 or earlier. It is carbon fiber instead of fiberglass, so it's lighter. It's a proven design, and a lot of the other Velomobiles that you see use the same design features. And they did sell about 1,000 of these before they just ceased production this past year. It's a company in the Netherlands. But yeah, the main point was there's not much room down here. You don't want to go higher because it's a tricycle and you can't lean into the turns and it'll tip over in a turn if you're not careful.
Would it be more efficient to get rid of the chain and just pedal it?
Okay, we'll get to that also, Chris. Yes, maybe. No, actually no, not more efficient. But anyway, that's a spoiler. Okay, so back to the October 29, 2024 talk. I went through the background. I explained why I wanted to get a Velomobile and try to do this. I wanted to learn. My main goal was to learn what was possible, how far you could push efficiency and still have a practical vehicle in real life, not just in theory. The theory says you could do great, but I wanted to see what you could do in real life. And so if you could do such a vehicle, it could be a vast improvement over a car for taking short trips around town. Maybe it could be an improvement over the bicycle even. That's a little bit harder to do, but the fairing, like I said, improves your aerodynamics. So on level ground, lets you use even less energy per mile. And you have the bonus of some weather protection from that as well. So many possibilities there. Okay, so then I described the Velomobile in more detail than I'm doing here. And I talked about the process I had to go through to give it the boost from the electric motor. I made it more difficult than it had to be because I insisted on having regenerative braking. As many of you know, I'm also an advocate for electric vehicles, and the ability to use the same drive motor as a generator to put energy back in the battery is just a great thing, which most e-bikes don't care about, don't deal with, and I had to have that. And so that made it a little bit trickier to do in practical sense, but we did it. With help, I was able to get that done. It took a while. Took the spring and part of the summer, but I got it on the road and started testing it that year, 2024, after purchasing it in late 2023. And so when the semester started, I talked to Andy, and I said, hey, if you got an opening, I'd like to give a talk about this. I didn't have much data yet because I just kind of got it on the road, but I thought, put me in October or middle of October. I'll have a month and a half to get some data. I'll make a good talk. Unfortunately, shortly after we set the date for that talk, I had a catastrophic failure. I mean, it didn't hurt me, but it hurt the vehicle. And so I talked about that in the talk. I owned up to it, but still was able to bring the vehicle to campus to show it off, at least talk about its potential. I had some data, but it was very limited at that time. So that's kind of why I wanted to come back, as Andy alluded to. There's the roaring applause. This video, thanks to my friend Carl, who's here again, and showing it off in the back of the room. Okay, that's enough of that. Okay, so back to the goals. So like I said, main goal is to learn, to explore, to figure out what's possible in this phase space of fairly modest speed transportation around town. And so that meant, in order to do that, I had to create this vehicle, and the vehicle I needed to have certain characteristics. I wanted it to be usable. First of all, I wanted to actually be able to be used, not delicate, in the real world, stand up to our horrible roads, be able to ride in comfort for extended periods of time. Really hoped that I could profit from the weather protection. I was already commuting most days with my bicycle, except when it got a little rainy or a little too cold, or I was hoping that I could extend my season into less favorable weather because of having that protection of the fairing and the third wheel, right? Bicycle, especially a recumbent with the low center of gravity, you can wipe out pretty quick just on a small slick spot. So I anticipated that might be a way to improve on the bicycle, even the recumbent bicycle. But I didn't want to go down the slippery slope, okay? You make a vehicle, it's heavier than a bike, you put in the motor, put in some batteries, that makes it even heavier. You need more power to move it, makes it heavier, put in more batteries, you want range, makes it heavier, then pretty soon you got a car. I didn't want that, okay? So I wanted to keep the human power contribution significant. There are some other entries into this world where they have the ability to pedal, but it's almost an insignificant fraction of the power that you're using. So some of these are connected. You have to, in order to do that, you have to keep the weight down as much as you can. But like I said, the battery technology is there now, and the composite carbon fiber construction technology is there now. It looked like it was possible to do, and go ahead and push the efficiency as much as I could. That's most of the goals that I had. And the vehicle that I ended up with, which was fortuitous, I didn't have many choices, but finally the one that I was able to get a hold of, already had a lot of the good features that I needed. Like I said, it's already carbon fiber. It was not bigger than it needed to be, not heavier than it needed to be. And so all I had to do really was to figure out how to add the electric motor in a way that would preserve all the other good features. And so in order to get regenerative braking, I had to go with a hub motor in the rear. So it would have parallel, the same wheel, the same drive wheel could be driven by pedals or electric motor in parallel at the same time in any ratio. Took only a small battery, and luckily this company in Vancouver, Canada, does take regenerative braking seriously for e-bike systems, and I worked with them and got all the stuff I needed. Okay, so back to where we were right before the talk in October. I had the failure. The failure was in the structural element that keeps the motor from spinning when either it's in drive or regen. So it had to have this torque arm that would anchor it to the frame. And now the frame is a little bit non-standard because the rear wheel is also suspended, so it's a swing arm. We had to create a new swing arm, and we bolted that thing to the thing, and it was not like a standard bike frame, and it failed during testing. And it failed in such a way that it severed cables, power cables, and sensor cables, electronic cables, and I tried to fix it and I couldn't. I had to send it back to the manufacturer. So there was at least a month of out and back delay after the October talk. So my friends, instead of hose clamps, that was should have been my first clue that this wasn't going to work. We welded the bracket so that this couldn't go anywhere. And this is my friend Dave welding up in his shop in Olivet, near Olivet. All right, so that took me into the holidays and the cold weather, and so I had the winter season to do a bunch more tasks that weren't essential necessarily, but weren't essential for just the initial phase of getting it on the road, but they were more important for the long-term rideability and safety of the vehicle. I won't go into details here. These are the kinds of things I did. I'll show some slides about the safety light, maybe, and the vehicle, if you didn't notice, is out there, so we can see these features later if you have time to stick around. It's got a lot of this company that I used for the controls. Everything's programmable, so that's really cool, but it takes time to find the right parameters and tune things up. So we had to tune hardware and software to get it running smoothly, and those things were all actually worthwhile, as we'll see from the data.
Hey, Paul,
Yes.
can you go back? So maybe, I don't know if you want to talk about it now, but you had a larger battery. You mentioned the smaller battery.
Yeah.
You want to expound on that a little bit?
I will. We'll come. Yeah, we'll come to that. Just a little.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Relative to what you said earlier.
Yeah.
Bigger battery, more weight.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, we'll get to that. Okay, so one of the criticisms that people have, even when they see this enormous thing, they say it's so low, nobody's going to see you on the street. You're going to operate this on the actual public roads? They think I'm nuts. Okay, so I did add an extendable flashing light that would be mounted high above my head. but could be retracted if necessary, and it also had double purpose. It would hold down the hard top, the rear edge of the hard top with the pod, and that was one thing that I did for extra safety. I painted this bright yellow for safety. This is the workshop that Oscar let me use right on this level of this building. And a lot of Scotch-Lite, again, for safety. I love Scotch-Lite. It's retroreflective. It's got the little tiny cubes in it. So here's a flash picture of it. There's Scotch-Lite on the wheel. It reflects headlights back directly to the driver. And I added some to the rear, some red to the rear. And then the trike was actually built in Canada for a while under license from the company in the Netherlands. And like I said, the motor company that I worked with was Canadian, so I thought a Canadian flag would be good. Blue Velo was the company that built these in North America for a while before they couldn't make it anymore. Okay, so spring came, and now I was really ready for the real world, I thought. Started using it to commute in April, really April 1st. I was recording a lot of data, so I know these things pretty much for a fact. We had an Earth Day celebration on campus. I was able to compare it with the Sunseeker, similar in some ways, tricycle, composite. In this case, solar is added instead of human power. But they were kind of interested. That was cool to compare. The other thing, now that it's on the road, now I have to establish what my real battery capacity is. It's often, in the real world, it's often not what the person selling the battery says it is, but it wasn't too bad. So I've tracked it a couple times to get to the cutoff point. This is a suppressed zero here. This is battery volts when resting. This is state of charge. Where the end is up to you, but you don't want to go too far down. And even where the beginning is, you can go higher. So yeah, I have some reserve on both ends. But I'll talk about the actual, how this translates into range in a bit. But I got it pretty well characterized, and I have the other thing that's great about the computer from Grin Technologies is I have a display of a lot of good data while I'm riding the bicycle, so I know what's going on. Okay, so here's where I ended up, and I'll try to talk about some of Carl's questions in this table here. Just some of the specific specifications, what power level I'm using, and I do have two different sized main batteries that I can use. One larger than the other, so I call them small and large. But the large one turns out to be way more capacity than I need, and it's also more mass, so I hardly ever use it. If the apocalypse comes and I have to go to another state or something on this vehicle, I might use it. But the smaller battery, which was sold as 8 amp hours of capacity, I can get 6.7 out of it, and that's plenty. That's actually plenty. If I'm not pedaling at all, that'll get me 35 miles, that small battery, which is not too bad. Okay, so I've managed to keep it light, especially compared to me. I'm the majority of the mass, even in the vehicle. There's another smaller battery to run other loads at a lower voltage, lights and things like that. Has drum brakes on the front, no mechanical friction brake on the rear. Of course, the regen happens in the rear. I got a nice 2 amp smart charger to take care of the big battery. Has some optional tops. This is what I've got invested approximately for reference. Okay, so I'm getting there. I'm getting to the data. So I still need to do a little bit of background so that you can appreciate the data that I'm going to present. Performance to me means efficiency. Okay, it doesn't mean drag racing or anything like that. Okay, just to make sure that's clear. And when you're doing the science, when you're doing the physics of a vehicle, any vehicle moving, operated on the surface of the Earth, aerodynamics is the main thing. Aerodynamic drag is the main thing you're fighting if you're not climbing a giant mountain or something like that. Okay, if you're on level ground, even the mass isn't that important, except when accelerating and decelerating. But I've got Regen to help me with that. Aerodynamics is super important, and it's not appreciated, I think, by a lot of people. That means that your power that you need to expend to move depends. I mean, it's influenced by headwinds a lot. It's influenced by your speed a lot, because the aerodynamic drag force is not linear in speed. It goes up faster than speed. And you notice the density of the air. If it gets very cold, you're going to be using more energy to move, because the air gets denser and the aerodynamic drag is proportional to that density. I'm used to this from riding bicycles all these years and being a scientist, so I knew all this. But it's really interesting. This vehicle is really different from the bicycle experience in some interesting ways, I think. It struck me anyway at first, because it's significantly heavier and it's more aerodynamic. The response to the power you put in, which you're just used to, from years and years of experience, is really different. The main thing that you feel is the aerodynamic drag on the bike. You don't think about it, but when you try to go faster, it takes more energy. That's what you're used to. And slight changes in elevation, in slope, aren't that impressive when you're riding your bike. Until you get to a big hill or a big downhill, it doesn't make that much difference. What makes the most difference is how fast you're going, because it's mostly aerodynamic drag. If you reduce the aerodynamic drag significantly and put on extra weight, suddenly the slightest grade change makes a huge difference. And it's almost scary at first. You go to a little downhill that you hardly can see, and it feels like you're out of control at first because you're speeding up. So that took a little bit of getting used to. The Regen is great. I was used to it from my electric cars and trying to optimize that. But as far as presenting data, it helps simplify the data situation, because if you restrict yourself to take data on a run that starts and ends at the same place, it doesn't have a net up or down, the Regen takes care of it. Okay, it makes the average more valid, and the same really with the aerodynamics. Even if there's a wind, it kind of averages out, and starts and stops, they average out. So I can present data, and I will present data that's really only valid for level riding at a constant speed, but it still translates pretty accurately to average speed, as long as I'm talking about starting and ending up at the same place. And the other crucial thing is that the data that I can easily get, because I cheaped out and I did not get the optional torque sensor for the pedals, I don't have any data directly on my human power input. I have plenty of data on the electric power input in both directions with the Regen and expenditure of power. Okay, so the metric that I'll be using, which again only applies to the electric energy or the rate of the energy flow, or how much energy is used per mile or whatever, I have a choice of quoting that in miles per kilowatt hour or watt hours per mile. The kilowatt hour is energy unit, a unit of energy commonly used for electricity, electric power times time. Power times time is energy, because power is energy per time. So and it's a bigger unit, so it's more appropriate in size. Most of our electric vehicles are giving us feedback on miles per kilowatt hour, because that's just like miles per gallon, at least in the way it goes, because there's a certain amount of energy in a gallon of gasoline also. And so in miles per kilowatt hour, bigger is better. Did I say that? Yeah. Larger is better. More miles per gallon, more miles per kilowatt hour. For comparison, I give the figure for our Chevy Bolt. I turn that upside down and divide by 1,000. You have watt hours per mile, which is kind of basically the inverse. And that's the number I get feedback for on this vehicle. And that's what influences me in trying to drive in a more efficient manner. But there I want to make the number lower. Okay. And here's where I've gotten now. Pretty, at least in good weather, average commuting, 2 watt hours per mile, plus or minus a little bit. Much lower than what I reported back in October of 24. The reason for that is probably a couple of different reasons for that. The alignment, the tuning that we did, got rid of some drag in the vehicle itself that was penalizing me. Got the wheels aligned. I got better at using the regenerative braking, so behavior goes into this, but really made a significant improvement after the October talk. If you look at this carefully, if you're mathematically minded, you can see that a speed in miles per hour, not our favorite units in physics, but our speed in miles per hour is built into either of these units, just as a factor, a simple multiplying or dividing factor. So it's easy to relate power in watts to the efficiency in either of these units at a given speed. And we'll see an example of that shortly. Okay, so here's an example that I'll use. One of my trips that I've did to shake down and understand, learn how this thing works better. Last August, took a trip to Three Rivers. Nice straight route, starts down on Oakland Avenue, goes through the next county a bit. I was able to basically keep the same speed, average speed on the way down as on the way back. Worked kind of hard, but not crazy hard. I wasn't suffering in my effort. As always, I was looking at my watt hours per mile. I'm used to having it around 2, and on the way to Three Rivers from here, it's only 1.08. Oh boy, I'm getting in shape. I'm really killing it on this trip. This is gonna be great because I was going pretty good clip on average. Then I came back and I was up to 2.77 watt hours per mile. So, why is that? It didn't seem like, I was keeping about the same speed. Subjectively, I was putting the same effort in. Looked like a flat course, no big hills on the way down. But that was a little bit deceptive. That's what the actual course looks like. It's about 24 miles. And in that 24 miles is a very gradual loss of elevation, about 115 feet. Doesn't sound like much, but it makes a difference. And it makes a difference. It's amplified because of the good aerodynamics that I was talking about before and the extra weight. But it's also magnified because I'm putting in most of the energy myself. And even if I'm putting in the same amount of energy or the same power at 125 watts, here's the total power where I've stacked the electric power on top of my human power. I had to do a little work to surmise these, to do some extrapolations to get here, but I think this is pretty close. The total power is more going uphill coming back and less going down. Okay, it's just a little bit more coming back. It's a little bit less than the average coming down. This is the same amount up and down, but because I'm providing most of it constant, the differences are amplified. That's why it's almost 3 times more electric power. I actually kind of knew that was going to happen. So here is, okay, I still got time to do this. This is, I'm going to bore some of you with this probably, but this is a nomogram that helps me understand the whole space of the operating parameters that are relevant to using this vehicle. So the first thing is just a simple lining up of the speed on the right, some selected speeds, 2 miles per hour difference from 10 to 26 over a range that it's interesting to me, and the total power that you have to put in if it's level ground, not climbing, not going downhill, level ground, and not too cold, and ignoring any wind, okay? So like I said before, that it should be good for an average, but strictly true for cruising without climbing or descending. So you can sort of see that it goes up faster. You know, it's not the same spacing. And this is not a suppressed zero, so it could go down farther, but I don't want to go that slow. So that can be figured out. So here's some little tick marks that correspond to those speeds, and here's a power scale where you can see the nonlinearity and not have to calculate it. That's the total power, but now I want to look at it. I want to add a dimension because I can have the power from 2 different sources. So now I've renamed this the human power axis, and this is the electric power axis. Okay, so for all of those speeds get extended now. All those speed lines get extended as the total power stays the same, but if I add electric power at 20 miles an hour, I can reduce my human power. Okay, that would be perfectly fine if this was also a scale in watts, but I've changed the scale to make it correspond to what I can see on my display, but it's no problem because like I said, watts divided by speed, watts divided by speed is watt hours per mile because the watt hour is watts times hours. And if speed is in miles per hour, it's still linear because it's a constant factor for each of these straight lines. And so you can go all the way down to 0 human power, and it's all electric power. And in fact, this is where I have the real data that anchors all of these points. Not all of them. I've extrapolated with the help of models and physics. But this, if I don't pedal at all, I can measure some of these, and then I can extend it back up with pretty good accuracy. The dots correspond to the halfway, half human power, half electric power. Okay, so here's how you can, no, there's one more thing to add. Now I better say that at my age, the top half of this is irrelevant, okay? That's not happening at any sustained period of time more than 5 minutes at a time, okay? Down here, yeah, this is fine. But with the electric boost, that doesn't exclude 30 miles an hour, okay? Which is actually kind of dangerous in this vehicle. But I want to add one more thing to this, and that is if I know the watt hours of energy that I'm using per mile, and if I know how many watt hours I've stored in my battery, then I can know my range for any of these situations, any amount of human power added to the electric power at any speed. And so that's what this curve is. Okay, this one's nonlinear because it's an inverse relationship. So this is relating this axis to now this axis in miles using 100% of the battery capacity. I was just able to arrange it. It's totally different, totally separate quantity, but I was able to arrange it that the numbers are the same. So if I'm using all electricity and no legs, There's my 30, 35 miles that I quoted before. But if I'm over here, I can really extend my range. And in fact, that trip to Three Rivers, if I take the average of down and back, that shows up right here. A little bit less than 16 miles an hour, a little bit less than 2 watt hours per mile. Electric, 80% human power is what I did on average. And so not a problem. But I could do that for like almost 180 miles before the battery was dead. And at 16 miles an hour, I could do 10 hours of that in theory and still have a reserve in the battery. So that's why I say I don't need the large battery. Because that's pretty good. This is if I'm going back and forth to school. That's pretty much where I live. I can't go much faster because of the stop and go, all the stops and goes. So it's really not. It's hardly an exertion at all. It's down around 100 or less watts, which I can still do for long periods of time. If I want to push it, I did have the opportunity to go on a closed course, race car track over the summer to see if I could push to maximum effort and speed. Maximum effort still not that 300 watts that the other guy was doing, although the course is curvy and I could do, if it was a straight course, I could probably do a little bit more, but I demonstrated an actual hour covering 25 miles, but now less battery range. And I tested it, I anchored this point also, testing on the same track with no pedaling. There's one more here, but I'll come back to that. Just give you a picture of the course, lots of turns, so only one straightaway, but also a big hill. So it was pretty good for testing. This point here is another test that I did that on a course you'd be more familiar with. It's the ring road here on campus. Now that they've gotten rid of one of the stoplights and improved the ring road, I did a test, and here I kind of wanted to push it a little bit, but also compare with both my electric car and the bicycle in a fairly controlled, not super controlled. I should repeat these, but I didn't take the time to repeat. I was mostly actually using the vehicle, but I was able to do the one lap of the ring road in about 8 minutes. So that's over 19 miles an hour average. 3.2 watt hours per mile electric. Here's how the Chevy Bolt compares on the exact same course, respecting the 25 mile per hour speed limit. So taking away the advantage of being able to go on the highway. If you're really comparing for urban travel, you get a little bit more speed with a lot more energy. Okay, a huge factor, more energy, electric energy required to do the same job. Of course, more capacity also. You could bring passengers on this, which I can't do. But really also wanted to compare my unfaired regular bicycle, or recumbent bicycle, and I was a little bit surprised at this because the ring road does have hills, does have grades. You have to climb, does have some climbs, uphills and downhills. I couldn't even maintain the same power level from my legs because it took longer. It took like 10 and a half minutes instead of 8 minutes to get around. So less average speed, still less total energy, but not by that much. So in the initial run, still even pushing it up to 19 miles an hour, I'm still providing 70% of the energy used for that short trek. Okay, so getting close. Sorry, I'm going a little bit over. I wanted to have a slide or two on regenerative braking because it's so amazing. This system has full power available for regen and full control of the strength of the regen from 0 to 100%. It's really great once you figure out how to do it. You don't get all of your energy back, of course, but you get a significant amount of energy back. that would otherwise be used to wear out and heat your brakes. Okay, this thing has mechanical friction brakes on both front wheels. They're balanced, but I hardly ever have to use them in most cases. So if I add up the data that I have from last season, exclude electric only and my competition weekend, I get about 912 miles that has been in the log. The computer, onboard computer said it used 3.1 kilowatt hours of electric energy total, but it recycled 1.34 kilowatt hours of that energy, so that the net out of the battery was only 1.76 kilowatt hours. So instead of using these two, this figure and this figure to get my range in miles for a given capacity of my small battery, I can use these two numbers. And that means I would have for a full battery, or for this full, just for this whole trip, all of this data, just taking the division, 518 miles per kilowatt hour instead of 294, which means for any amount of that, Regen is increasing my range by 76%, which obviously is pretty significant. Okay, since I added everything up, used more of the data. I talk about here the net energy use again. That would have been 75 cents worth of energy at my residential rate from the power company. But actually, I didn't have to buy it from the power company. I have a very small photovoltaic system with a small battery in my attic. And that's where I got most of that energy. Got down as low as 1.65 for long periods of time. So here are the deficiencies that I would note. It's not all a rosy picture. It's not the perfect vehicle by any means. It's much more difficult to work on than a regular bike, even to check and see what's going on with it. As you'll see if you have time to come out in the hallway, you can't see what's going on because it's all inside. That's kind of inconvenient. It would be difficult to change a tire in the field, so I've got tire liners and stuff to try to keep that from happening. Ground clearance is low, so it doesn't tip over. That means I could bottom out on some of our potholes easily, and when we had the very thick, very heavy snow, I wasn't able to get out in that. Seeing forward is not great. It doesn't have windshield wipers. Depending on what top I'm using, even my glasses are a disadvantage there. And also, it's just obstructing the view forward for the operator. You can't lean into turns, as I mentioned, so it's a little bit, takes some getting used to, governing your speed when a turn is expected. There's no door. You have to lower yourself in through the opening. That was for structural reasons again, to keep it strong and light. So I get a workout in my arms as well as my legs. It has a huge turning radius, and so that makes me a little bit worried about exploring unknown routes. I don't just jump in and explore in that. I would take my other bike if I was doing that. If I'm going to take this vehicle, I kind of want to know that I don't want to be embarrassed and get stuck someplace, not able to go. Cargo capacity is there, and it has significant, I can get groceries in it. It's not real convenient because of the shape. These are kind of minor things, so I will not spend time on those. I'll go to the successes. Those kind of went from my more significant concerns to my less significant concerns. Regen's been a great success. As I said, the overall efficiency exceeded my expectations. I like that it reports a lot of good data. helps me understand what's going on. I haven't had any serious incidents on the road or even close calls. Have managed to avoid flats even with rough roads. The interior comfort is great even in very cold weather. If the surface is fine, I can go out in the cold, and because the wind is not blowing on me, I'm very comfortable inside, especially if I'm pedaling. I'm warm inside. They've been able to use it to a fairly significant extent. I think, 1,200 miles is much more than I was doing yearly on my other bike, so that's good. And it's really, as with any e-bike, if you've got sufficient power, which this does, you can control your effort. If you're going to someplace and you don't want to be sweaty, you don't have to be sweaty, and you can still make good time once you've figured out how it works. And that's a huge plus compared to the bicycle also. Got just a few more tweaks I want to make. I've got the little chip that'll allow me to connect the 52 volt battery and downshift the voltage to keep the 14 volt battery charged. I won't have to worry about two different chargers all the time. That'll be an improvement. I need to experiment with my other tops to see how I can deal with the rainy weather and see if I want to go without a helmet or not. We can talk about that if we want. The current lithium battery technology doesn't like to be accepting charge when it's below freezing, when the battery's below freezing. So I have to consider if I want to extend my season into the really cold months, I might have to do some thermal control of the battery, which I don't have at this point. They have a lot of cool bike GPS devices now that are small and portable and don't use much power. That might help my anxiety on getting lost or getting stuck in some weird situation. If I do want to take longer trips and carry a little bit of baggage, I should put a hitch on it and put a two-wheel trailer behind it. Have to figure out how much that reduces my efficiency, but I think I've got enough range to spare that might be fun. And I am set up so that I should be able to do I should be able to experiment with eliminating the chain and having a serial hybrid where my pedals just charge the battery and the battery runs the motor, and I can pedal at whatever speed I want, even at a stop sign, or not pedal and not break that link between how fast or how hard I'm pedaling and the speed I'm going. And that might be fun and interesting. There's a little bit of a efficiency hit if you're not using the chain drive directly to the wheel is more efficient than the stages of charging and running the motor. But again, I think I have sufficient capacity that it might be another experiment. All right, so here's my conclusion slide. Thank you for your patience. One can certainly imagine now tweaks to make it a little bigger, a little more roomy, some interior cargo capacity if you want. That wouldn't be too much of a penalty, too much of a weight penalty. Got to watch out for that slippery slope. But more modern Velomobiles have already improved how easy it is to get in and out with bigger openings on the top without sacrificing much on the weight. But I think I've shown that pretty good sustained speeds are possible without being a super athlete. I'm certainly not a super athlete, and mixing it up on city streets should be doable. Unfortunately, it's hard to see how such vehicles will ever become mainstream given the current technology and market forces. The way they're built doesn't lend the composite construction doesn't lend itself to ease of mass production, and so they'll probably always, at least for the foreseeable future, be too expensive for the vast majority of people. And That's it. Thanks to my wife, thanks to Grin Technologies, thanks to these two guys especially, who were a big help in doing the work. Questions? Yes.
Why did you shorten the crank arms?
My big feet.
Okay.
There's a one of the rain bibs easily slides in. We can show you in the front to stow. A rain bib is like a kayak that keeps the rain off your lap if you're riding with the open top. But that was, my toes were hitting that on when I had the 175s.
So can you again explain the regen thing? Like it charges your battery when you apply the brakes?
Yes, essentially yes. It uses the kinetic energy that you've built up by your own sweat, and then the amazing thing is the same motor that moves you forward when you put electrical energy in. If you take electrical energy out, it slows you down. It's a conservation of energy, and all that the hardware is required is to reduce the voltage so that the current flows in the other direction. A motor and a generator are the same thing. The motor happens when you put electrical energy in and get the mechanical energy out. The generator happens when you take the mechanical energy in and pull the electrical energy out. So when you're rolling along, you stop pedaling. You can change the power electronics so that your rolling motion makes the motor a generator, but there's no free lunch. That makes you slow down.
And one more thing, that your motor is like the assist technology, or
It's the default mode is pedal assist, and it has different levels. But yeah, it amplifies your pedal force, and it just has a different amount of power depending whether you're pedaling or not. But I also have a throttle independently so that I don't have to pedal. I can get a boost with my thumb also. That's what puts it into class 2 for Michigan state law.
Have you ever been pulled over while driving?
I have not. Not yet. A lot of Velomobile drivers report being, even without electric assist, report being pulled over by law enforcement because they can go faster than a bike, especially in the Netherlands and stuff where it's flat. They can get going, and then the cop says, I must have a motor in it. It should have a license, but it doesn't. They say, look, officer, it doesn't. And those stories, there's multiple stories online about that. Hasn't happened to me in this locale.
So there's no license needed in Michigan?
No license, no. It's classified as an e-bike. Michigan law doesn't count the number of wheels, even though it's a tricycle.
Or the e-bike category?
There are three e-bike classifications that are legal to ride on public roads. No license or tags required.
You pay a tax?
What?
You pay a tax?
Nope.
Like other cars do?
Nope.
So
Nope.
the
But I don't harm the roads like other cars do.
before you watch, they're gonna start charging you a tax for your work, right?
By Bolt, yeah. Oh yeah. Well, on the registration of Bolt, yeah. We pay a big chunk. Of
More, to make up for the gas.
In theory, yes.
Yeah,
But that's 5,000 pounds. That's hurting the roads.
I guess paid on that.
Yes.
You mentioned that it had drum brakes. Is there a reason for choosing drum brakes over disc brakes?
Yeah. At least I don't have direct experience of this, but the lore online is the front wheels even are completely enclosed, except for the bottom, and so they can, if you're on dirty roads, stir up dirt. It can be a concentrated dirty environment in there. And they had trouble with calipers too close to the discs getting fouled up. The drum is more enclosed and doesn't get fouled up by the road dirt. That's what I hear.
What was the top speed of this?
People always ask that. On that Sports car track, I had it up to 35. Downhill, of course. I mean, when you say top speed, I mean, what do you mean? It'll go as fast as you want downhill. If it's a long hill, because its terminal velocity is a lot higher than your bike.
Yeah.
Go to your physics class, and wouldn't even have to pedal to get. You wouldn't have to pedal to get to 35 miles an hour. But if you're pedaling, you can go faster than that. But it'd be very dangerous.
Can you back it up like?
Reverse, yes, because I have yeah. I mean, were you at my previous talk?
Yeah.
Okay, you remember the slots in the bottom?
Yeah.
That was for reverse when it was a Velomobile. Flintstone style. When it's a pure Velomobile, the only way to back up was to put your feet down and push back on the ground. Now I've got a motor, I got a switch, I can use my throttle, I can back up.
Okay.
So you talked about the efficiency. What efficiency were you talking about? Is it like a full system or is it the batteries one you were talking about?
It's both. I mean, it's the energy. It's not a good efficiency from the scientific point of view because it's not a pure number. It's not, the units don't cancel. Efficiency, a real efficiency in science should be energy in, energy out. Units cancel. It's just 60% or 80% or whatever. What I'm loosely calling efficiency is how far can I go on a certain amount of energy.
So what formula you are using? Is just the Carnot efficiency or something else?
This is data. These are measurements assisted with. So if I don't pedal, I can just the computer keeps track of the energy, the electrical energy used, and it keeps track of how far I went. All I have to do is divide those two numbers. If I pedal, then I have to do some extrapolation, but it's fairly straightforward to do that.
How long would you say it would take like a random person to just pop in and figure out how to use it?
Oh, I've had random people do that already. Carl, you have a comment on that? How long did it take you to learn how to use it?
Maybe 2-3 minutes. We did some loops around the parking lot, and then you want to make sure you know how to brake because it does even just
And then I let you put some electric power on.
Yeah, because it was just a slight downhill in a parking lot. It's like, whoa, this thing's moving, and I had to turn, so I didn't want to roll it. So no, I mean, and some of it is a little bit unintuitive, like your steering. You have to get used to that.
Yeah, steering ratios are different.
But I mean, if you're a bike rider or
start slow and it's not too high.
And I'm a motorcyclist, so I kind of get it.
Have you thought about changing your mechanical energy to electrical energy since you're pedaling a lot? Maybe you can charge your battery through your pedaling.
Yes, that's sort of what I mentioned with the chainless. You can, in principle, and people have experimented with this, you could get rid of the chain that directly drives the rear wheel from your cranks in the front. And that's attractive because it's a really long chain, as you may have realized, because my feet are out here and the drive wheel's behind me. So yeah, you could, and I believe I have the appropriate generator in my basement right now. Very small generator. You could mount that right by the cranks, use and tune it so that your proper effort, proper resistance would match your preferred cadence, we call it. How fast you want to pedal, what speed you're comfortable pedaling, and just put that electricity into the battery, and then have a totally separate system that uses the throttle from the battery to the motor to decide how fast you want to go. Mm-hmm. You could do that I could do that easily. There are disadvantages in the real world, right? In my present setup, if my legs fail, if I die or something, or my legs don't work or my joints seize up, I can still go with the throttle. If my battery dies or my motor burns out, I can still go. Okay? Whereas if I have that arrangement with no chain and my motor dies, I'm just sitting there unless it's downhill. And if I went that way, it instantly becomes illegal to drive it on the roads.
Instant become illegal?
Illegal to operate on the roads, yeah. If there's no chance for pedal assist mode, then it's not a legal e-bike. So if I do that, don't tell anybody. Okay? Don't tell my wife.
What's the turning circle like? Because I can't imagine it's too great.
11 meters radius. At least that's what the manufacturer says. I'd like to measure it with my particular tires, but it's not going to be much less than that. So that's why reverse is handy. Yeah, it's not. It's not that bad though.
How does that 11 meters compare to, say, your normal recumbent bike or car?
Way different from the recumbent bike. I don't actually know what the cars could do. My car can do better, and probably it's a short wheelbase. But some big Cadillac might be the same. I don't know. But that's a decision. That's another one of these optimizing decisions. If you see the vehicle, you can't see the front wheels very much. There's no room for them to turn inside that body. That you could design it differently to get, and some of them do have open front wheels, so they have a little bit more room to maneuver.
Rear.
Steering the rear? No, too complicated. All three wheels are on suspension also. So I don't think I would be steering. I don't think I would be trying to do rear steering. Okay, last questions before we go out to the lobby. I'll be happy to talk about this more out in the lobby. All right, thank you.
As you put it in the trailer on the back, how much can you carry right now? Like, you carry like a little briefcase?
Oh yeah, easily. This space is all available.
On both sides?
Well, it ends kind of here because of the chain.
Yeah, so you could put like 2 little bags or like a couple of groceries, like a small
There's a little compartment up there that's got a little bit of volume, but it's very hard to get to.
Yeah, so you can get like a few groceries, but not like a whole week's worth of
and if it's a box, it's not gonna fit very well. Here's my turn signal. Here's my horn. I've got one brake light that is from the lever. And then this brake light is inertial, so it works when I do regen.
Oh, wow. That's not, so that's more.
Yeah, right, exactly. Black inside, that makes it hard to see anything.
Oh, look at that.
There's the display.
So do you use clipped pedals? Do you typically?
Yeah, so those are two-sided. I have my choice. There's a flat side and the clip-in side. Yeah.
So what's
Long
your
trips.
typical choice?
Long trips, I would use the
clips?
The clips,
So you can also get power on the
exactly.
full stroke.
And you can use them all the time in here because it's a trike. You don't have to clip out fast when you stop.
Right.
So there's almost no reason not to if you got the recessed cleats, which I do.
Serious question. First one is two original model, right? It had a little eyes on the front. Does it still have it? What happened to them?
What's that?
It's a picture from 2014 from California.
It had eyes, yeah. That's right, it did. It did have eyes. When I got it, it didn't have eyes.
Not anymore. Okay, good question. You know, I teach like 30 for 2. In that formula we're using there, what's the C value for that car, you think? So the car is 0.3, what do you think you have for C value?
Oh, C sub D, the drag coefficient?
It's kind of the same in the book or in here. What are you thinking? What do you think it is?
For this one, I have a pretty good idea what this is. That was on, I think it's in my brochure.
Oh, right.